With one race left before the championship, we roar into Bristol, Tennessee, and the last great Coliseum. For the Pultz Poppers 275, welcome to Racecraft TV's coverage of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the booth tonight is Ian Fisher with Zach Johnson, pressing the buttons and controlling the cameras here on Racecraft TV tonight. And Ian, the story of the championship is really, really interesting. One of the main drivers that we've been watching all season long, Ted Wade, is on the back foot coming into tonight. P8 currently in the standings. He's got a little bit to go before he reaches the likes of Chris Cinnamon, Justin Lumpkin, Stephen Thomas, and Tyler Dittmer, who at this point do not have a large cushion of the cut line, only about 8 points for those top two, but they still are in the top four. But I think with everybody being 21 points separated among these elite eight, really is anybody's guess at who's going to end up racing for the championship.
Not much separation tonight, but you kind of mentioned it. It's really interesting to see Ted Wade at the bottom of that playoff bracket that we have so far here left, remaining only one more race. You mentioned it until the championship. I don't really think anybody expected to see Ted Wade in this situation, but you did mention it's so close of a gap between all of these drivers. Really, it's anybody's race tonight, but I think qualifying is going to be super important. Josh, you really want to start up front here at Bristol. I don't think we're going to see many cautions, believe it or not. However, they did put our final race before we get into the championship cutoff here at this half-mile speedway where anything can happen, so it should be a good show here tonight.
Winningest driver of the season, Ted Wade, with 5 wins, most top 5s, most top 10s as well, and he might not advance into the championship round of the playoffs. But Ian mentioned it, we're doing this finale here at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll go racing tonight for 275 laps, and there you can see how we've gotten to this point. Past Talladega, the start of the Elite 8, of course, Michigan, Circuit of the Americas, and Kansas being run in the Sweet 16 round. We cut that playoff field in half when we went racing at the high banks of Talladega. And now we're going to go racing for the last short track of the season and then go to the final race of the season in 2 weeks time on December the 16th from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, finishing off on an intermediate track. But 275 laps lay ahead for these drivers here tonight. Stage 1 will end at lap 75, stage 2 at lap 150, just past halfway in this race. 100% fuel in each of these trucks and 4 tire sets. They should be good to the end of at least stage 1 and stage 2, but as always in stage 3, a little bit of an unknown for these drivers, but they'll at least have a tire set that they can switch onto, as that'll be 4 tire sets laying in the pit lane for these drivers. So they'll get 1 to change at the end of stage 1, 1 to change at the end of stage 2, and then 1 to change in stage 3, and they'll still have that 1 tire set left over for any overtime restarts we might have, which has proven this season to be an important thing to have in their back pocket.
I will say this, though, Josh, if there's one track that we've come to so far that really doesn't wear tires too much, I think it's going to be here at Bristol. We've seen it even in the real life, how drivers like Elliott Sadler come to mind, where they went the distance on tires and really stretched those tire sets and kept their track position, and that really ended up being the benefit at the end of the night and got them in victory lane. So I think this is one track where you'll see these drivers try to stretch their tire limits as far as they could possibly go, so watch out for that a little bit tonight.
And I think something else, Ian, that we have failed to mention yet, but we'll mention it real quick before we get going, with about a minute being left here in qualifying, the multi-groove nature of this track. I mean, you can run to the top, you can run to the bottom, make passes up top, make passes on the bottom. Lapped cars can really choose to go either which way. So we've seen the bottom lane be pretty dominant when it comes to especially the iRacing service and the Bristol Motor Speedway. Of course, that classic Bristol line being right down there on the bottom, beating and banging to get to that line. But I think now, especially with the new dynamic track and all of the changes that have been made over the recent months in the iRacing service with how the lines run, you can run the top lane here at Bristol, and it can be a viable line.
I really think the top line is the line so that you want to race in, Josh. I think if you want to run that bottom line, you can, but you don't want to get pinned down there, because we've seen it happen all too many times where drivers get stuck to that bottom line. They can't get back in the throttle quick enough, and that allows the driver on the outside line to carry that momentum and really make the pass. And sometimes you'll even get freight trained here just from the short track nature of Bristol. You might lose 5-6 positions being stuck there on the bottom line.
The trucks will run very different to the next-gen NASCAR Cup Series machines or the NASCAR Xfinity Series machines that are also run here at the last great Coliseum. And these trucks, they still have that classic short track nature to them. You got to use the bumper. You got to knock some people out of the way to get to where you want to go. But it's time to take a look at the starting grid for the Pultz Poppers 275 from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. And how about that? A 14.888 for the 34. Tyler Dittmer is on the pole, and he is looking to lock himself into the championship 4. He's got Ted Wade that needs to make up a lot of points for that championship to his outside in P2. Back from there, Justin Lumpkin, another driver currently inside the top 4, but only by a handful of points. He'll start to the inside of row 2. Adam Newbert will start to the outside of that row in P4. Keith Bradley, another driver for Upfront Motorsports, currently below the cut line, but only by 5 or so points. He starts in P5 tonight. And then Stephen Thomas also tied for the lead currently in the playoff standings, but only about 10 points to the good. Raul Meza, Blake Lothian, 2 non-playoff drivers, going to share the 4th row on the grid. And rounding out the top 10, it'll be Taylor Peacock, driver outside of the cut line as well. P7, about 13 points back. And with James Morris to his outside, that'll round out the top 10 on the starting grid. Huck Wigington, over 200 laps in practice for the 00. He'll start P11 with Jose Luis Rivera, winner from Talladega 1 week ago, starting to the outside of row 6 in P12. Christopher Blanchard and Robbie Richards will share the 7th row on the grid. Back from there, Chris Cinnamon, the lowest starting of our playoff drivers and the first driver to not take a time in qualifying. He'll start back in P15, rolling off in 4th and on the cut line for the playoffs. Dana Shepard will start P16, and running at the field will be Cody Knott in P17, and then TJ Moore, Race Control, assumes the final virtual grid spot. 17 drivers will be slated to take the green flag here for the Pultz Poppers 275 from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. So Tyler Dittmer and Ted Wade on the front row as we get ready to roll off behind the iRacing virtual pace truck. And as they get rolling, of course, with Tyler Dittmer being the top driver right now in the playoffs, and safe to say he might be one of the favorites, but 10 points are on the line in stage 1, 10 points are on the line in stage 2, and then 40 points for the winner in stage 3, and of course of the race. But all the playoff drivers want to do is get that checkered flag. That checkered flag means a guaranteed spot in the championship 4, but if you don't have the truck, if you're not in the right place at the right time, those stage points might save you from being eliminated before the championship 4.
Well, you mentioned those stage points are going to be key, and it's that dichotomy here of 2 race stories with Dittmer and Wade on the front row there, 1st and 8th in our playoff points right now. Ted Wade doing all he can to just win this race, Josh, and Dittmer in a really good spot right now. Doesn't necessarily have to win, could probably point his way in, but just I love seeing these 2 stories we have here on the front of our grid so far this evening.
Field will take one more lap around the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Partly cloudy skies here over virtual Tennessee, and that track temp of 98 degrees. Another thing that's going to really affect that tire wear. Not going to be a whole lot of it on these trucks tonight. We'll keep an eye on it, as well as the fuel situation as we get ready to go racing. Some light winds as well might create for a very interesting afternoon race here for the virtual last great Coliseum. But the official iRacing pace truck will make its way into the safety of the pit lane. And for the second to last time this season, we'll get ready to take the starting grid. It's the Pultz Poppers 275, and we're green flag racing from virtual Bristol. Let's see who will be the championship 4. A much expected good start from the 34, Tyler Dittmer. He'll take the early lead as now everybody starts to snake themselves up to the top of the racetrack. Now you might notice those orange names on the timing tower. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them lit up. Brady LaBeouf not in the race session tonight, not taking the starting grid. That will be one driver that already came in below the cut line and now will finish under the cut line in. So that is going to help Ted Wade, Taylor Peacock, and Keith Bradley, the 3 drivers that were under Brady LaBeouf, sitting P5 in the playoff standings before tonight. So that'll give them a little bit of an extra boost, as Brady LaBeouf will not compete for a championship and to compete for yet another championship in NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series competition next season.
One of our playoff drivers there, Stephen Thomas, just tapped the wall there coming out of turn 4, Josh. So a little bit of interesting drivers here. Early, hairy stuff for them to get through here in the first couple of laps, but you've kind of noticed it already. Everybody going to that high side here early, and I think that's what we're going to see for the majority of the race. But Lumpkin did a really good job there clearing Newbert in the beginning of this race, getting up there in 3rd position. I mean, he's one of these drivers too, Josh, that's looking for all these stage points they possibly can. It's going to be so important and so crucial here tonight with such a small split that we have between all of our drivers here.
Stephen Thomas, only one win this season for that number 23, and it kind of is the story of Stephen Thomas's career in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. He's not flashy, he's not getting into the victory lane every single weekend, but he is incredibly consistent and always seems to have a fast race truck under him. It's very difficult to bet against the 23 of Stephen Thomas, and comes into tonight above that cut line, tied for the top spot in the top 8 of the playoffs, and with a good bit of points to go, is we almost have a little bit of contact for the race lead. It's now a 3-way battle. Dittmer, Wade, and Lumpkin as they all fight. 2 Chevys and a Ford F-150 as we go on board with that Ford, the 87 of Justin Lumpkin. You're off the top of the number 87.
And I know track position is really, really important here, Josh, especially with how difficult getting on and off pit road here is on Bristol, especially under green flag conditions. But I will say I'm surprised these 3 drivers are fighting this hard this early for these positions. You're still in the top 5 here, top 3 if you're running here with all these drivers, and it seems like it's calmed down a little bit, but a little bit hairy there between Dittmer and Wade for a second.
Just for a moment out there for the race lead as they continue to fight now, and it'll be about a 3/10 gap from 34 back to the 2, and Lumpkin trying to get himself into the conversation as well for that 2nd spot with the 2 of Ted Wade. And right now where they stand, it'll be 10 stage points to Tyler Dittmer. It'll be 9 stage points to Ted Wade, and it'll be 8 stage points to Justin Lumpkin in the number 87. So it's stage points that are really going to be crucial for them as they try and make themselves into the championship 4. But right now, everybody except for the 3 of Chris Cinnamon is in a spot to gain some stage points. Unfortunately for the likes of Taylor Peacock, it won't be a lot, but caution flag, the first one of the night, and it'll be Christopher Blanchard and Dana Shepard tangled up on the inside of turn 2, and first caution out of the night. Lap number 15, the 19 and the 45 get tangled and move themselves to the apron of the opening corners here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. But for the first time tonight, we're under the yellow flag, and it seemed like a typical Bristol incident here and not a ton it looks like that either party really could have done. The 20 actually kind of sent it up the inside. That's Jose Luis Rivera. Here's that replay as we take a look. There's Rivera getting into the back bumper of the 19 of Blanchard. Rivera gets away fine, but I think also trying to knock it down and trying to lock up those brakes. The 45 of Dana Shepard just kind of slid in to to Christopher Blanchard down there on the inside.
I think what happened there to Shepard is he was trying to go low. We'll see from on board here. I think he was trying to go low initially, Josh, and then that kind of just closed up on him, and then at that point, I mean, you saw what happened there. Really not much any place for him to go once he committed to that bottom side here. So you see both of them coming down pit road trying to get at least some damage repaired here. And that's such a tough thing about having damage here at Bristol, places like Martinsville, any short track really, is that even if you're pitting under caution, you've only got about 20 or 30 seconds at a time that you can repair damage, and you got to be out on the track if you want to stay on the lead lap.
And I think something else that really contributed there to the 45 of Shepard being caught up in that incident. Normally short tracks, we're talking a lot about understeer. I mean, we're talking a lot about understeer, a lot about tire wear. We're not really talking about that here at Bristol. We're talking a lot about oversteer. I mean, this is one of the loosest short tracks that any of these drivers will ever race at, whether virtual or real life. It doesn't seem like you have a lot of tight problems. You have a lot of loose problems, which probably contributed to Dana Shepard sliding in there, just locked it down with the amount of banking we have here. Just kind of broke loose, and he could not save it within the rightful amount of time, and ended up making a little bit of contact with the 19 on the apron.
Well, the transition down to the flat from the banking doesn't help as well either, and you kind of saw that when he was trying to brake and high siding his truck at the same time coming from the banking to the flat. So that's not going to help your stopping distance at all if you're Dana Shepherd trying to avoid that wreck. But we haven't touched on that much this evening, as the banking plays so much into this track versus really any other short track. The only thing that comes to mind is maybe Slinger Raceway in Wisconsin, but you do want a loose race truck here to start your race, Josh, because as the long run progresses, if you do get that long green flag run, your truck will actually start to tighten up as that run goes, and then you have a better handling truck in a long run. And we see that with drivers that stay out on those old tires. They do kind of have an advantage as the laps click on. But when we're having short runs like this, 15, 20 laps even, that doesn't really play much of an advantage here. So yeah, definitely detrimental to have a loose race truck early in the run, but in the long run, it may pay off for you.
If Steve Myers is watching at home, Slinger Speedway for iRacing. I think that'll be a very good fitting short track for the iRacing service. I mean, imagine
we'll talk to Chris Leone is what I was going to say, or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
The amount of tracks I have talked about Chris Leone for to get added to the iRacing service, still have had none, admittedly. But, you know,
well, he never gets asked for anything, so I don't know why he doesn't listen. Yeah.
He never gets bombarded with asking for tracks and cars to be added to the iRacing service. But anyway, we're back racing for the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. The Pulse Poppers 275 on to lap 20. Remember, this stage will be ending off at lap 75. Still a good ways to go in the opening stage. And much like the opening restart of the race, Tyler Dittmer pulls away as side by side for the fourth spot. Bradley on the inside, Adam Newbert on the outside as the Ford gets a great run back to one.
Yeah, and you see there again, any truck that gets pushed to that bottom line is having a hard time and getting kind of freight trained right now. You see that with the 29 and Bradley now in fourth position and almost about to lose it here to Newbert on the outside. You just see that advantage that the truck gets getting that run off the high side, Josh. That's going to be critical to the rest of the race this evening, and right now Bradley finds himself in a very tough position.
Keith Bradley trying to use that inside line, comes in sixth in the playoff standings. Some good stage points here could help him, especially with Chris Cinnamon, the fourth place driver, being outside of stage points as Adam Newbert hits the outside wall and blocks up the 23 of Stephen Thomas. The 23 machine will fall to ninth, trying to get back to the inside as the 4 of Newbert stuck on the outside line. Meza loose on the inside now as they race back through 3 and 4.
Well, that is one side effect of running that outside line there, Josh, and you can see it in some of our camera angles, all that loose rubber that's up at the top of the racetrack. Until that gets worn in a little bit here, you mentioned the dynamic track surface at the top of our broadcast, and look at that, going 3 wide for a second. What a move from Thomas there to split the 2 drivers. Meza there, just enough to cape out of the way for just a second. That was one heck of a move, Josh. Now Meza's loose on the inside there. Everything going on all at once here at Bristol.
37 having a little bit of issues. It'll fall to P10. That'll move Chris Cinnamon very crucially for the 3 machine up and into this top 10 for stage points. He comes in as the bubble driver in P4, 5 points good to the cut line with Brady LaBeouf in 5th. Now, with no LaBeouf starting this race, he will have to work with Keith Bradley now, and he only has an extra 2 points there, so 7 points good to the next driver. That he needs to worry about is Chris Cinnamon. Any stage points is going to be good for him right now to try and protect that top 4 spot. But Meza having to fight back now inside of the top 10 as the lead battle grows to 4 strong, with Dittmer, Wade, Lumpkin, and Bradley all fighting through 1 and 2.
Well, see, an interesting thing we have here with such a small field size, Josh, and all these playoff drivers that we have here racing here tonight is look at that. Every single driver in the playoffs is in this top 10. So it doesn't matter being inside the top 10 right now. You just got to get this best position. Dittmer doing a great job right now. Wade trying to chase him down. This is really going to be a difference because we mentioned how small that gap is between 1st and 8th. All these drivers running so close to each other on the racetrack right now. You got to go out there and get every position that you can. You even got to get the checkered flag. It really doesn't matter right now having a good run. I think anybody who wants to go to the next round, if they're not in that top 4, has to win this race at this point.
We put 31 laps behind us, going to lap 32 as it is bumper to bumper between Bradley and Lumpkin for the 3rd spot. It's bumper to bumper for the race lead between Dittmer and Wade at the front of this field. It is North Central Racing Club in the 34 versus the Upfront Motorsports number 2 of Ted Wade. Back to the back straightaway they go. Back through 3 and 4 as quickly as these laps tick down, so does the time. Ted Wade getting 9 stage points here is going to gain a little bit on the drivers in front, but especially with Chris Cinnamon now dropping to 10th. They're in a battle for 10th now, I should say, between him and Raul Meza as we continue to look at the battle for the race lead. Any stage points for Wade is going to be crucial, especially as Chris Cinnamon loses out now on 1 more stage point. He'll only be gaining 1 point to protect himself from the cut line. He'll go to 2,045, where Ted Wade currently is. He'll be at 2,040 with 9 stage points earned in stage number 1.
Yeah, so Ted Wade trying to chip away as much as he can, and I will give it to him doing all that he can right now besides leading this race. So if you're the 2 truck, you're in 2nd place, but you're really satisfied with that right now. Anything can happen in these coming laps, especially if a long green flag run. Drivers like Dittmer get into lap traffic. I think that's what Ted Wade is looking for right now. He really hasn't had the dominant truck here tonight, Josh, but definitely one of those guys to look forward to when we get into the latter stages of this race to look for a win. I mean, he has to do it at this point. You mentioned it, even where he's at right now, he only has 5 points to the bad of Cinnamon at this point, so that's not going to be enough. I think he has to go out there and win this race, but right now doing all you can if you're Ted Wade.
And Chris Cinnamon with 2 wins. Very weird to see him not really having a great run tonight as Christopher Blanchard pulls off to the apron in front of the leaders, and he'll tow his way back to the pit lane. Not sure if that's a byproduct of his incident that he had to bring out the first and so far only caution of the evening, but he tows it back to the pit lane and I believe has just exited the race server as well. So it'll be day night over for Christopher Blanchard. As we take a look at the race lead, still is 34 Tyler Dittmer in the lead. Here's a very important battle as well in the midfield of the top 10. That's Justin Lumpkin to the outside. To the inside goes Taylor Peacock, another playoff driver. Blake Lothian waiting in the wings as well. Stephen Thomas is also there, but this will make a complete top 5 of all playoff drivers. Peacock and Lumpkin fighting. Both of them need points as well as they sit currently Lumpkin above the cut line, not by a lot. Taylor Peacock under the cut line by a decent margin.
Yeah, Thomas here got stuck to that bottom line, now loses another position to Lothian. So now your top 7 drivers, 6 of them are playoff drivers, Josh. So this race for the last playoff spots are even closer than it's been before. But I'm a little bit interested with the 87 of Lumpkin. He's had a strong run here so far, but now finds himself falling back through the pack. We said that tire wear we don't think is going to be much of a factor here this evening, so I'm kind of curious to see what is happening to the 87 truck as he now loses another spot to Lothian, and Lothian's kind of on a little bit of a charge here.
To the inside for the race lead, Keith Bradley in the 29. It was not the Upfront Motorsports entry of Ted Wade that is going for the 34 of Tyler Dittmer. It ends up being the 29.
Oh my goodness.
And Keith Bradley flipping on the front straightaway. He collects another truck.
Dittmer's
one more involved in the wreck in turn 1, but Dittmer tight off of 4 makes contact with the 29, and the second caution of the night is out, involving 2 playoff drivers, and Dittmer's engine has expired.
That is going to be huge, Josh. That's huge for Ted Wade here. He's going to definitely, obviously, inherit the race lead, but I think Dittmer was the only truck that had anything for Ted Wade here tonight. So if you're that 2 camp, you're sighing a little bit of a sigh of relief here, but that was a huge accident, Josh. I've never seen anybody fly that high at Bristol.
The 34 at Dittmer, all it took was one tight moment off of turn 4. Here's the replay. He just gets tight. 29 leaves him plenty of room, and the slight contact. 29 goes flipping. That head-on contact is all it took for the 34 of Tyler Dittmer to lose that motor. And this is 2 playoff drivers now taken out of this race. Dittmer was a solid bit good to the cut line, but I don't think it was enough that he's going to be saved. The 48 also getting involved. That's Robbie Richards. But the 29 at Keith Bradley, a wild flip for him, and unfortunately came in below the cut line and is going to leave below the cut line as well. There's an onboard as well from the back. This looks like to be the 48 of Robbie Richards. There's the flipping machine at Keith Bradley, and nowhere to go for the 48.
And I'm laughing a little bit here, Josh, but you know a little bit from watching all these races this season. It seems like no matter what, Robbie Richards can't catch a break. He never seems to cause the accident, but always seems to be caught up in it once it gets done. And what are you going to do at that point there? You got a car flipping through the air and then it just lands on your hood. I just feel kind of bad for him so far this season.
Couple of drivers enter the pit lane, mainly damaged drivers as well. Ted Wade stays out, so does everybody else in the lead lap. Robbie Richards, Dana Shepard, both involved in incidents earlier, coming to the pits. Tyler Dittmer is going to try and get that damage repaired. Same thing with Keith Bradley. With both of them having engine issues, I don't foresee that being any quick repairs. So we might see them in 2 to 5 business days. I'm not sure any sooner for either Dittmer or Keith Bradley, but that will be 2 other drivers into the pit lane with Richards and Shepard. Shepard exiting the pit lane now. Same thing with Robbie Richards, grabbing a little bit more damage repair. But that leaves everybody else on the track, and Ted Wade to fight with Tyler Peacock behind, Blake Lothian, Stephen Thomas, Justin Lumpkin the top 5. So now we know for sure that Dittmer will end with only the amount of points he's going to earn for P15. He will not earn any bonus stage points on top of that. So unless Stephen Thomas, Justin Lumpkin, Chris Cinnamon, and really now Ted Wade and Taylor Peacock for that matter, end up all also getting either next to none stage points or no stage points, I just don't foresee this being good for Dittmer or Keith Bradley. Keith Bradley especially being underneath the cut line, but Tyler Dittmer, who came in tied for first in, I think in that one incident, he might be completely done in the playoffs just with that incident. I don't foresee any other scenario where he might end up being able to walk away in the championship 4.
Well, and it just went from really both of them were having an excellent race, doing all they could, battling for the lead, to both their nights being over. And you mentioned it, playoff over. So you're about to go back to green flag racing here. We'll see what happens for the rest of the night, but kind of at this point falling into Ted Wade's hands.
Ted Wade will lead us back to the green flag. Taylor Peacock in the 81 to the outside. Stephen Thomas, Justin Lumpkin, 4 playoff drivers in the top 5. Cinnamon in 8th with Dittmer and Bradley in the pit lane and waiting for damage to be repaired. Peacock and Lothian side by side, a little bit off of turn number 2. They settle it back to single file as Newbert and Meza go side by side for 6 behind.
Yeah, Lothian really drove it in there into 3 and 4 and kind of slid up the racetrack just a little bit, but able to hang on to a really good move there. Gave him sole position to 3rd place right now. This is the 37 of Meza trying to move on the inside here. The 3 is Cinnamon. Cinnamon, the playoff driver, trying to make some of those spots up, but now we have a battle here for the lead. Josh going in the 1-2.
Side by side, Peacock on the inside line, and almost another repeat of what we just had happen to bring out caution number 2. And Peacock barely cleared on the outside line. Now Ted Wade invited back to the inside. Side by side for the race lead as Blake Lothian tries to join the party in his Toyota Tundra. Here he goes to the inside for 2nd. Peacock with a good run off the corner will leave a side-by-side battle for 2nd place in his wake.
Lothian saw the dueling crossovers going on in front of him, and he said, hey, I want a piece of this too. And look at that, Thomas on the 23 now working the high side here, trying to track down Lothian. He's got a little bit of a run here too right now. And look at this, Ted Wade's falling back a little bit, and Peacock now running away with this race a little bit, Josh. Oh, trouble in the back.
Behind, that's Lumpkin and Rivera, another playoff driver involved in the 87, and 3rd caution of the night is out. Not a ton of damage to that Ford F-150, but that is another playoff driver that came in above the cut line, now with a ton of damage to that number 87.
And we talked about it, Josh. You know, anything can happen here when we come to the last great Coliseum at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. And you know, none of these drivers are trying to make contact. They're trying to fight for the playoff lives, but it's so easy here to just get together with another vehicle. We'll see what happened here. This is, you know, he just tapped the wall, slowed down a little bit. Nothing Cinnamon could do. He's racing hard as well. I don't really think that was anybody's fault, Josh. Just a little bit of racing incident there.
We'll take a look at another replay off of turn 4. Yeah, he hit the wall. That's also damage to the front end of the 3 for Chris Cinnamon. If that is enough to damage that radiator at the front, that could be yet another playoff driver that runs into a bit of trouble tonight. Take a look at the front end of that number 3. It got punched in pretty well through that incident. I think that radiator might be damaged, Ian. I don't see a way it couldn't be.
Well, I mean,
punched in the front end of that Chevy Silverado is.
Yeah, and it might not be fully damaged right now to get him out of this race, Josh, but you've seen it so many times where it'll hang on for 20, 50, maybe even 100 more laps, maybe even 150 more laps, and then it just goes out on you. So something that you definitely have to have in the back of your mind. You see the front end damage right now. As you take a look at the 3 machine there, Chris Cinnamon. I have to agree with you, Josh. I think we're going to probably see that engine go on that 3 truck at some point tonight.
What a development in the playoff drivers here in the cut line race for the Elite 8. Right now, 1 playoff driver, 2 playoff driver, 3 playoff drivers in pits, another one with damage. And that'll, if Chris Cinnamon ends up having that engine expire, that'll be only 3 playoff drivers left running on the racetrack actively. Lumpkin's exiting the pit lane now. He'll get a little bit of that damage repaired. He luckily ended up not a ton. But man, all these playoff drivers running into issues tonight. I think we foresaw at least a handful of incidents. I don't think we foresaw each of them involving a playoff driver.
Well, you kind of take the words right out of my mouth there, Josh. I was just about to say I didn't have half the playoff field getting into wrecks this early on my playoff bingo card, or not even being here in the case of Brady LaBeouf. But look at that, Lumpkin, another one of these drivers involved in these incidents, Josh, and all these drivers that have kept it clean so far. Really only probably Thomas, Wade, and Peacock, I think, are the only playoff drivers that haven't had any issues so far yet here tonight. So hey, I mean, half the battle is surviving those 3 drivers at the front of the field. They're doing it so far.
Side by side again as we get ready to go back to racing. It'll only be a handful of laps before we have that stage 1 caution, which will be at lap 75. 4 playoff drivers within the top 5. Then we've got Lumpkin, Dittmer, and Bradley at the tail end of the field. Dittmer and Bradley still not on the track. They're still getting damage repaired, 14 and 16 laps down respectively. Lumpkin in 13th. Needs to try and gain a couple more spots if he wants some stage points. But Peacock, Wade, Thomas, and Cinnamon lead the charge for the playoff drivers as Taylor Peacock hits the loud pedal. We're back underway, trying to conclude stage number 1 as Wade goes back to the inside, looks for the race lead, almost makes contact with the 23 as Stephen Thomas, as the 23 puts his nose into the front of the field. To second place goes the 23 with a great run on the outside line.
Well, we just mentioned it too, how these top 3 drivers weren't involved in any incidents there. Ted Wade and Stephen Thomas almost got together. That would have been another incident involving 2 playoff drivers. Ted Wade with a huge moment there on the bottom side, now finds himself stuck there. He'll file in behind Lothian now in the 4th position, but Ted Wade's been able to get up to the leader, Josh, but it just seems like he hasn't been able to get the pass done. We saw it earlier. His teammate Keith Bradley was able to get all the way up to the front, and then that was in the incident with Dittmer there, but really just seems like that 2 truck has had top 5 speed, but it hasn't had race winning speed yet.
Less than 10 laps to go now for the end of stage number 1. And already a ton of drama with those playoff drivers here at the beginning of the Pultz Poppers 275. Lumpkin been trying to gain spots. He lost another one to Huck Wigington, now gains it back. So that'll be Lumpkin gaining 1 stage point in 10th, and he's still in a side-by-side battle with Huck Wigington, just trying to gain at least 1 stage point if he can. That 00, he's gonna need to pass him, but I think, Ian, we just saw on that straightaway, and we'll see it again on the back straight. I think the top end speed of that 87 is not going to be at its full peak, because take a look on the straightaways. He gets just simply outsped by the 00 of Huck Wigington, and that's really all he can do is just kind of sit there, use the corners to his advantage as he tries to get by Jose Luis Rivera for 9th.
Yeah, really, he's doing all he can right now, and you mentioned it, using the corners as an advantage. He's running that bottom line, and he's probably able to stay fully into the truck all the way around instead of having to worry about lifting or braking any single times like that. But right now, you kind of see it. He's definitely slowing down on the racetrack, and he's probably going to continue to lose more positions as this night goes on.
Less than 5 to go now for the end of the first stage. Peacock leads the way, considerable margin to Stephen Thomas. Here's that battle for second place. Non-playoff driver now, Blake Lothian in third, trying to get to the back bumper of the 23 of Stephen Thomas to gain second place. And Thomas is looking for a good bit of stage points here. This will propel himself up to the top spot of the playoffs as well. Taylor Peacock with 10 stage points. That'll be helpful for him as he came in P7 on the leaderboard. Ted Wade falling to 4th after that last restart. Battling with Chris Cinnamon in the 3 behind. Still unaware if the 3 of Chris Cinnamon is going to be hindered by that front end damage. Are those temps climbing? Is he gonna need to get that damage repaired? Can he avoid that engine possibly expiring from overheating with the broken radiator? We will have to find out. Final lap of stage number 1 as it's Taylor Peacock who leads the way. We'll be snapshotting the field here and then giving the top 10 points. Most of our playoff drivers, except for Dittmer and Bradley, will earn some points in this one. The yellow flag is out. Chris Cinnamon barely going to be able to gain one more spot from Adam Newbert, but the yellow flag is out. And stage points are being delivered to a good handful of our playoff drivers, and what could be the nail in the coffin for Tyler Dittmer and Keith Bradley.
Yeah, shout out Justin Lumpkin there. We kind of chronicled the struggles he's having there with his truck and possibly the loss of horsepower that he has here, Josh, but still hanging in there, able to get some stage points, even if it's just one stage point. It's a good job by the 87 doing all you can here with the damaged race truck.
So Taylor Peacock walks away with 10 stage points. Stephen Thomas walks away with 9. That will push Stephen Thomas to the lead of our playoff standings currently. Justin Lumpkin only 1 stage point for him, but looks like that will be enough to keep him above the cut line. We'll keep doing the math as we work our way through stage 1. And of course, still 10 more points on the table for stage number 2 as Ian, everybody's going to come into the pit lane. A majority of the field has not come into the pit lane yet, and that includes a majority of the playoff drivers that were up here at the front, and everybody that is on the racetrack will come in for 4 fresh Goodyears and some Sunoco fuel.
Really, everybody took tires. I'm kind of surprised that if you guys didn't try to stay out and maybe trade the track position battle, although I will say here, Josh, with as many trucks that we've lost on the racetrack so far and how few are still left in this race, I will say dropping back to 10th position doesn't maybe matter as much as it did at the beginning of this race, but I am kind of surprised by that. Nobody played the tire strategy. Obviously, when it come down and get fuel just to make it the rest of the way, and I wonder if people are coming in now just to try to get a little bit more fuel with Ted Wade taking tires as well. I don't know if they did the single or split pit road here tonight, Josh. Tell me about that.
Looked like the single pit lane. Everybody entered on one side and everybody going to exit on the same side. And that will be Taylor Peacock leading the way off of pit lane. Stephen Thomas, Blake Lothian, Ted Wade, Raul Meza will be the top 5. We saw it for a moment there. Tyler Dittmer in the 34 is back onto the racetrack. He'll gain up to P14, but 28 laps down, and undoubtedly, I don't think that motor is going to be at full song, and I don't think that truck is going to be really well off aerodynamically. But we'll see what he can do in trying to salvage as much as he can. He won't be able to gain all 28 laps back unless we get 28 cautions, and I will knock on wood for that one. But he can salvage as many points as he can, which right now is going to be P14 unless we see more drivers fall off.
If there's 28 more cautions, Josh, I'm going to need a moment. I'll just say that.
Same.
Yeah. I don't think we'll get 28 more cautions. Maybe 8. I could see maybe possibly 8 more cautions, including the stage cautions, excuse me. But I don't think 28, although, I mean, this field is spinning out a little bit. I will say that. I'm kind of surprised from the truck count here this evening. I figured that more people will be excited to race on the high banked half mile here as Dittmer's in one of his laps back now. But I don't know. I mean, maybe people were scared to mess with the playoff standings. I'm not entirely sure, Josh, but definitely an interesting field of the race tonight with the relatively small field size.
So doing my very simple, very quick math.
Did you make a spreadsheet for this
one? No, I did not. I should have. No spreadsheet was made tonight. I'm using a notepad and a picture from my phone of the stage number 1 results. But as the pace car pulls off, our top 4 in the playoff standings continue to be the same 4 names: Dittmer, Thomas, Lumpkin, and Cinnamon. Bradley did not earn any points in that stage. Of course, LaBeouf not here. He earned none. Taylor Peacock earning 10 points from that stage win only pushes him up to right under the cut line, P5. And Ted Wade with 38 points now, or 2,038 points. He was able to gain 7 throughout that first stage. That will push him a little bit closer to the cut line, but he will only jump 1 spot. That will move Keith Bradley to the final spot of 8th, LaBeouf to Wade to 7th, LaBeouf to 6th, Peacock to 5th, then Lumpkin, Cinnamon, Dittmer, and Thomas in that order through the top 8. So this is still a very open battle for those championship 4 spots, and right now Taylor Peacock showing the way here in stage number 2.
And something I noticed in that last restart there, Josh, too, is that Peacock took the inside line. He took the outside line last time around and was still able to get an excellent jump there. So Peacock feeling really comfortable here in the lead of this race here on lap 86. He's going to be one of the guys to watch out for sure. But right now, Lothian's been doing a really good job getting down to his back bumper here. And he'll follow him through the high side here. He's going to look low this time by, but I really don't think he's going to get that pass done on the inside line. I think if Peacock holds the outside here, he's going to hang on to the advantage, Josh.
Field works their way back through 1 and 2 as... back to 3 and 4, back to the front straightaway as Taylor Peacock leads the way. Blake Lothian knocking on his back bumper, looking for the race lead. Lothian, 11 starts this season, a part-time driver in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. 5 top 10s for him this season, 3 top 5s. Has not been able to walk away with a win, but showing some great speed in that number 43 Toyota Tundra as he tries to chase down the number 81, who really is looking for a win here, Ian. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. Of course, with 10 stage points in the opening stage, and then if he gets another 10 here, that's going to be very beneficial, but it is still win and you're in. All the playoff drivers now that are still left on the racetrack and on the lead lap are really only thinking about capturing that checkered flag as we stand.
No, and I think if you're the 81 camp, you're definitely looking for the checkered flag. Now, you don't really care about your stage points and letting it work out that way, and you kind of see it here with how he's defending this lead. You see that every time that Lothian gets that run to the inside, Peacock kind of fades down and steals him off a little bit, and I think Lothian is aware of that. He's kind of backed off here. The gap now is about maybe 4 to 5 truck lengths, and I think he's just sitting back here, maybe seeing if Peacock will burn up his tires, burn up his stuff here a little bit as this race progresses, but right now Peacock doing all he can to hang on to the lead this race.
And they work their way through final couple of corners here at Bristol and go on to another lap, almost to 100 laps down. Still a long way to go in the Pultz Poppers 275. 275 laps on the docket for tonight. Field will space their way out as we work our way through the now middle portion of the race, and now the beginning stages of stage number 2, still off the heels of that stage. Caution. Battle for the lead continues on as they go to the front straightaway. Lothian to the inside and got a little bit loose off the exit at turn number 4. He has to back it way down and now stay behind the 81, who almost makes contact with the wall off of turn 2 as well.
Yeah, I really think that Lothian is having trouble with the air coming off of Peacock's truck, and we don't talk about dirty air really much here at a short track, but especially here at Bristol, you want all that forward bite that you possibly can. When you get right up behind the bumper of one of these trucks, it takes a little bit of the air off the nose. You're not getting as much downforce, and you kind of see it with Lothian. Every time he goes to the bottom, he's just not able to make it stick quite right now, and you'll see when he follows Peacock through the corner, Josh, he'll run about maybe a half lane, even a lane down from the 81, just trying to get some air on the nose of that 43 to make the pass.
We'll cross over to lap 100 here this time by, as the battle for the lead continues to rage on. Stephen Thomas, the 23, now going to try and chase them down. Ted Wade back there as well. And we mentioned after the incident that took the 34 really out of the running for the race win. Now having him 28 laps down, that next in line was going to be Ted Wade in the 2. I mean, we really thought he had the other truck to beat. If it wasn't going to be the 34, it wasn't going to be the 29, it was going to be the 2. And now Ted Wade has really shown that, yes, he's got good speed. He's got a top 5 truck. Pretty much any time he steps on the track, he's going to have a top 5 truck. But right now, he's only good enough for 4th. We have Peacock, Lothian, and Thomas that have been setting the pace in the end of stage 1 and now in the beginning of stage 2. We have not really seen an answer for the 2 of Ted Wade since the start of this race.
Yeah, I think really he's just kind of struggling with the dirty air that we talked about a little bit earlier. If he was leading this race, I don't think that anybody could get up to him and beat him, but right now finds himself in the 4th position, about I would say 6 or 7 truck lengths even back from this little lead pack that we have right here of Peacock, Lothian, and Thomas. And even Stephen Thomas right now, he's able to hang with these guys, but nobody's really able to get up there and challenge Peacock for the lead. Lap 105 of this race, and I believe we go to 125 for the next stage break. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Josh, but right now you see Lothian, he continues to just get right there, but he's not able to make the pass, Josh.
He is really, really trying. It'll be 70 laps to go in stage number 2 this time by, or actually, it'll be 45 laps to go. We end on lap number 150 here for stage number 2. Just a little bit past halfway in this race. Not quite 300 laps, 275. So halfway will be reached in roughly about 35 some odd laps from now, as they continue to race on. And now lap traffic being in the factor of the number 87 of Justin Lumpkin in the 34 of Tyler Titmer. Lumpkin has really tried to use that damaged race truck as much as he can in, but now going 1 lap down, he just does not have the speed to keep up. And right now, he sits above the cut line still, +4, but that is to Taylor Peacock, who currently leads the way. No stage points versus where he sits right now. 10 stage points. That's not going to be good for the 87 of Lumpkin, and I think just unfortunately a small tangle up on the front straightaway might have taken him out of the playoffs as well as the 34 and the 29.
You're Lumpkin doing everything you possibly can here in the latter stages of this race, but you kind of mentioned it, now falling 1 lap down, and I would assume if we go green all the way to the end of the second stage, you'll fall 2 laps, maybe even 3 laps down at that point. So a really tough run for Lumpkin, especially as you mentioned, if Peacock continues to stay in the lead of this race here. And as we look at the 34 as well, I will say, Josh, I think that front end damage and that nose damage that led to the engine damage for the 34 was a little bit of a kind of a fluky thing there with Bradley making contact to the wall like he did, but nevertheless the 34 has to deal with it and trying to do all he can here with now 29 laps down. But it's just a tough run for him when he came in here, probably feeling really good about being in the lead of the championship standings.
Yeah, right now as we sit, Stephen Thomas +18, Tyler Dittmer still +9, Chris Cinnamon +7, Justin Lumpkin +4, Peacock -4, LaBeouf -8, Wade -9, Keith Bradley -10. With Bradley not on the track, you can kind of cross off him. Ted Wade in 4th right now. Ooh, with Justin Lumpkin not earning any stage points, he'll get close, but he's not going to secure his spot in the championship 4 until stage 3 if he does at all. LaBeouf not being in the field, you can also cross him off as -8, and then Taylor Peacock -4, leading the way. Just needs to gain 4 points on Lumpkin. Well, that's exactly what he is going to do. He might also jump Chris Cinnamon in the process as well. So Taylor Peacock in the 81 doing exactly what he needed to do tonight to lock himself into the championship 4, and it won't be a for sure lock until we race our way through stage number 3, but as of right now, it's looking very, very promising for the 81 of Taylor Peacock to make the championship finale. Still 0 wins on the season for Taylor Peacock. If he's able to lock himself in with a win, it will be his first one tonight at Bristol.
Well, he does have one win, Josh. It just wasn't a points-paying race. It was, the Clash of Daytona. So he did win that, but that doesn't lock you into the playoffs. But, I mean, if you're going to win a race, especially if you're in a position where as Peacock is, he touched the wall just a little bit there. I don't think it's going to be enough to slow him down. I mean, you might as well do it to lock yourself into the championship 4. No better time to do it than then if you're the 81 there. But something I've also noticed with him so far, Josh, is, and now the 23 will make the pass on Wade here, and Wade will try to battle back, is that the longer a run that we have, the better that 81 truck gets. And I think that's the difference between him and the rest of the field right now, is just that long run pace that he has.
They fight back now. 30 laps to go in stage number 2. We've been caution-free so far here in the second stage as Ted Wade, Stephen Thomas now continue to fight for 3rd spot on the racetrack. Wade looking to the inside, trying to gain back more stage points than he earned in stage number 1. In that opening stage, he did finish exactly where he is running right now of P4. That is only good enough for 7 points in the stage. If he gets the pass on the 23, he'll be able to come home with 8. But Stephen Thomas in the 23 not letting go on the outside line as he powers himself back to 3rd.
Yeah, Stephen Thomas knows how important all these positions are, especially with how few playoff drivers are left here running competitively at the end of this race. And he doesn't want to give that spot away to Wade. He knows that's one less position that might be available for him in the playoffs here. So lap 125 when they come to the stripe this time, but you're already seeing battles like it's the end of the race, Josh.
Already seeing those battles, and kind of already seeing how those battles are going to play out, because we've seen a lot of drivers try and use that inside line as a passing zone. We're seeing it right now from the 2 at Ted Wade, but you really have to force to make it work. I mean, the amount of laps they spent side by side, I mean, it had to have been 5 or so laps that the 2 at Ted Wade and the 23 of Stephen Thomas spent side by side. Like, it takes a lot for the pass to be made on the inside line. That outside line is dominant, but I think from what Ted Wade just showed us, it can be beat, especially if you know how to work those lines well, as the 45 at Dana Shepard moves out of the way. A little bit of contact with the wall through 1 and 2.
Well, and I said at the top of the broadcast, too, if you're going to make that pass on the inside, you really got to do it in one set of corners or maybe one lap. And Ted Wade kind of proved me wrong there with that pass for the 3rd position as he now tries to reel in Lothian here in the 43. You kind of mentioned it, Josh. Got to be a really good wheelman there to hold the bottom side for so many laps and continue to make up positions. But you kind of see it now, the 2 of Ted Wade using that bottom line. He's even getting up to Lothian here.
Ted Wade now on a mission. It is Up Front Motorsports number 2 to gain back some more stage points. He'll go to the inside of the Millie's Restaurant and Catering number 43 Toyota Tundra. He looks to the inside again, side by side with Blake Lothian on the outside line. He's looking for 9 stage points in what could possibly push him up above the cut line and above Justin Lumpkin. If he gets these 9 stage points and Lumpkin gets 0, he'll be tied for the cut line tied for a spot in the championship 4. Still Silverado versus Tundra, but the Silverado proves itself best off of turn number 4, and a little bit of contact now to the back bumper from Lothian as Ted Wade races his way to P2.
Yeah, that could have been catastrophic there for Ted Wade. I don't think Lothian was expecting Ted Wade to lift as early as he did. A little bit of a bump to the back bumper there of the 2, and looking at lap times, Josh, running about identical lap times to Peacock, but I think Ted Wade, if he can get some clean air in front of him and start to set sail here a little bit, I think he could possibly chase down Peacock in the laps that we have left here before stage 2.
Not a ton of laps left, but Ted Wade has just put about a 10th to the race lead of Taylor Peacock in the 81. How quick can Ted Wade catch him? And I think more notably, will he be able to pass Taylor Peacock once he gets to him? There'll be 16 laps to go this time by as Taylor Peacock heads back through turns 1 and 2. There's Ted Wade. We just saw that gap at 1.8 seconds. It's now down to 1.6 as the 81 of Peacock slowing way down now at the front. Last time by 16.204 for the 81 of Ted Wade, 16.133 for Ted Wade. The 2 is catching at a high rate of speed, but can he catch quick enough with 15 to go?
Yeah, 81 got into the wall last time by too. You see the damage there on the right hand side, so maybe that 81 not handling as well as Peacock wants it to right now. And I don't think Ted Wade is going to catch him here before the end of the stage, Josh, but this also puts him in a great position, barring how pit stops shake out. The two of Ted Wade should be on the front row when we come back to the restart, and I think that's going to be the advantage he needs to really get in front of this race. And as I kind of mentioned before, I think once he gets out to the lead, I don't think you're going to catch him, but he does have to get to the lead first. That's the most important part for Ted Wade right now.
And Taylor Peacock tight off of turn number 4 there, almost makes contact with that outside wall, keeps it off. We stay green, now over halfway done in tonight's proceedings from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. We still have a third stage left to fight and still 6 more laps left here in stage number 2. The story of the playoffs where we currently stand is really relying a lot on these stage points. Tyler Dittmer off of the lead lap, I should say, not out of the race anymore. He's still running on the racetrack, but not gonna have any stage points. Neither will Justin Lumpkin, 2 laps down, a damage number 87, and Keith Bradley still stuck in the pits trying to get damage repaired. He is also still not back on the racetrack after 32.5 minutes in the pit lane. So it will be stage points for Cinnamon, for Thomas, for Wade, and for Peacock. Out of those drivers, only 2 of them are currently above the top 4 cut line. With this, that will push Taylor Peacock above the cut line. It'll push Ted Wade right onto the cut line and tied with Justin Lumpkin in the 87. It is all riding on these stage points, and then it'll all be riding on how many points these drivers are going to earn in stage 3 for the race itself. White flag in the stage will be this time by for the 81.
Yeah, and a little bit of advantage there for the 87. You can't lose any more spots, but you kind of mentioned it, Josh, after these stage points get paid out and towards the end of the race, it's going to be really hard for Lumpkin to hang on to that final spot if Wade stays where he's at.
White flag out here in stage number 2. It was a very exciting stage number 5 laps left to go here in stage number 2. Marty, too much math tonight, Ian, I think is the problem.
Well, that, and then I also...
Too much math.
Yeah, and then I kind of got you earlier because I said it was 125, so I think I threw you off at the 125, and then when you saw 145, it just kind of, so my bad.
I also said 175 earlier on, I think, too. It's been too many numbers. A lot of numbers game tonight. Hopefully my numbers will be fine with calculating who's going to be the final 4, but what I can tell you is that we have a battle for the race lead between Ted Wade and Taylor Peacock. All that lap traffic has now caught up to the number 81, and the 2 has also caught up. This could be huge for Ted Wade in the game of the playoffs. 3 to go in the stage. Off of turn 2, Wade trying to complete the pass. They've got another lap machine up ahead. That's Huck Wigington, the 00. Can the 2 complete the pass in 4? Yes, he can. Put the Upfront Motorsports number 2 to the race lead.
I'm sorry, Peacock is going to be trying to battle back on the inside here, and it's really important for Wade to get that pass done before they got to the 00 of Huck Wigington, because Wigington was running the bottom side there. With 2 trucks coming up on you, you don't really have a position to really try to avoid it. You just kind of got to hold your line. That would have been the detriment to Ted Wade at this point. We'll see if Peacock is able to get him here as they come out of 3 and 4, but I don't think he's going to have enough time, as Ted Wade is going to come all the way back from about 6th position and hang on to win the 2nd stage, Josh.
A beautifully done stage win for the 2 of Ted Wade, and that could be very, very crucial in his hunt to be in the championship 4. 2nd stage caution of the night, 4th or 5th total caution of the night, as Ted Wade gets that win. We'll see who's going to touch the pit lane. Could be everybody on the racetrack, as we have 124 laps remaining, and we'll get ready to go back to green, and we'll get ready to also crunch all of these numbers as we conclude yet another stage here in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. Pultz Poppers 275. It was Taylor Peacock who won stage 1. Ted Wade wins yet another stage here in stage 2. He's trying to be on the road to a 6th win in the season and a spot in the championship 4 round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm just imagining you doing the math there, Josh. It's like the meme of the lady and all like the numbers and equations are around her head and everything like that. That's how I see you right now.
I did break out Excel. I am using a spreadsheet for this one.
Well, yeah, you should. I mean, you kind of were using Excel, like ye olde Excel to an extent with like, you know, the pad of paper and everything like that. Did you have an abacus as well, or were you at least using a calculator?
I actually didn't even need a calculator for the first stage. Once we started getting into the second stage, it got a little hairy on the math, so I decided to break out the spreadsheet, the old sum formula in there, not using anything too crazy. But as everybody works their way into the pit lane here, I can tell you that will push Ted Wade up 10 points, pushes Taylor Peacock up 9 points. 8 points go to Blake Lothian. He's not a playoff driver. 7 points will go to Stephen Thomas's. Ted Wade leads the field off of the pit lane. There's a good amount of drivers staying for a little bit of extracurriculars on the pit lane, it looks like. Ian, Stephen Thomas getting a good bit of damage repaired. Same thing with Taylor Peacock. Cody Knott is going to come out of the pit lane further up inside the top 10. Taylor Peacock now finally exiting after a long pit stop there, 34 seconds. Same thing with Stephen Thomas. A lot of drivers getting damage repaired after some meetings with the wall here at Bristol.
And that's kind of interesting too, as well. Unless you have, like, you know, engine damage or something like that, Josh, I don't really think it's too detrimental to have, you know, any kind of fender damage, something like that. I think you really want to get your 4 tires and fuel as fast as you can, get back out on the racetrack. You know, less drivers are in this race, but track position is still really important. I'm not entirely sure, unless you have some kind of engine damage, dropping RPMs, that's really the play right now.
Okay, I did finish up the math here for the end of the first stage. Now I have to make sure that my cut line math is done right, which it's not. Stand by as I try and do some what should be simple math, and I'm messing up my Excel formulas here. Okay, there we go. 16 points good to the cut line is Stephen Thomas now, and my math is still very, very wrong somehow, and I don't understand why. Never mind, I understand why. I didn't sort the table. Ian, take over while I struggle to work in Excel sheet here.
Well, I'm proud of you, Josh, because not all of us can count to 10, and Ted Wade's going to lead the field back to green flag racing here with Tyler Dittmer on the, Blake Lothian there on the outside. Dittmer, of course, having the issues earlier in this race, and look at that jump that Ted Wade here gets off the start. 119 laps to go here to decide our final 4 playoff spots from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. And I kind of mentioned it, Josh, once Ted Wade gets out to the lead, I don't think there's any looking back, and you see it right here, already out to a 0.6 of a second advantage, and we're not even 2 laps into the stage.
Okay, I finally figured out my Excel formulas, as a lot of the playoff drivers now kind of spread out through the field. This is the first time we're seeing Cody Knott up here at the front of the field. Raul Meza's in the top 5 as well. Great night for him so far. He's trying to gain a couple more spots, but the story of the cut line is this. It will be, as of right now, Stephen Thomas plus 20 to the cut line as we currently sit. Chris Cinnamon plus 6, Tyler Dittmer and Taylor Peacock plus 4, Ted Wade minus 4, Justin Lumpkin minus 5, Brady LaBeouf minus 13, Keith Bradley minus 15. So we can already put the nails in the coffin for Lumpkin, LaBeouf, and Bradley, but Tyler Dittmer is holding on by a thread. By 4 points he is holding on, and as of right now, if one misstep from Peacock or Ted Wade, and Dittmer might have a shot at still being in the top 4 at the end of this one.
Well, I think that's why you haven't seen him retire yet. I think you know, or he knows at least, how close he is to hanging on for this championship for battle, and he doesn't want to give up just quite yet. He did get his lap back that last time by, so was able to stay up there. But actually, as we say that, Josh, it looks like the 87's gone the pit road.
Into the pit lane for Justin Lumpkin. It's been a lot of damage for him, and he sits 5 points below the cut line, and just not not running full speed. Don't think he really wants to be out there hogging up a lot of space on the racetrack right now. The 34, Tyler Dittmer, same issue for him, but he does also have a really good shot at keeping himself above that cut line. With Lumpkin already below that cut line by 5 points, I definitely understand the want to maybe bring it back down pit road, try and get a little bit more damage repaired, trying to gain a little bit more speed out of that truck if possible. But as of right now, it sits with Ted Wade in the lead. Next playoff driver is Chris Cinnamon in 5th, now in 6th, as James Morris ends up making a pass for that 5th spot, pushing the 3rd to 6th. Peacock in 9th, Thomas in 10th, and then Lumpkin back in the pit lane, Dittmer and Bradley in the pit lane right now. The story of the playoffs in stage 1 was, oh my goodness, all the playoff drivers are wrecking. Stage 2, it was, okay, how many points are the playoff drivers going to hog for themselves in the stage? Now it's, what happened to all the playoff drivers? They're spread out throughout the top 10.
Yeah, that is something else to watch for as well, with Lumpkin going the pit road. If he, you know, is not able to continue with this race and Dittmer is able to pick up one more spot, that makes it just all the more likely that he finishes this race above the playoff cut line. And we kind of mentioned it while they were taking the pit stops, Josh, but look at now, Peacock finds himself all the way back in 9th position and 5 seconds off of Ted Wade. So really, I don't think these drivers that came down and got the damage repairs, I really don't think that was the call, Josh. Now you find yourself back there, 9th, 10th position. Those drivers that did come in and get the damage repair, you got to chase down Ted Wade. You don't really care about damage at this point.
Fighting their way now as we continue to work our way through the 3rd stage. It'll be 100 to go here in just a couple of laps. And with Ted Wade leading the way, this is the story of what's kind of been the season as we see Raul Meza work his way around the 34. Tyler Dittmer 29 laps down now as Justin Lumpkin goes to 21 laps down. He is back on the racetrack, by the way, in the number 87. It was 5.5 minutes in the pit lane to get a little bit more damage repaired. That 87 will come back onto the racetrack now and try and salvage a little bit more from P13. But it's been the story of the season, really, for Ted Wade. 5 wins, most out of anybody in the field right now in. And, of course, in the latter half of the season, we've seen a lot more drivers walk away with some wins. Of course, Keith Bradley got 2, Cinnamon got 2, Tyler Dittmer was able to walk away with 2, and then a lot of drivers getting those solo wins on the year. But it's been a dominating season for Ted Wade, and not the night that he needed at Talladega 2 weeks ago, but this was the night that he needed in Bristol, and now sits in a spot where he only needs 4 points to get above Taylor Peacock to get himself into the championship 4, or a win to get himself into the championship 4, and we currently have that with Ted Wade.
Well, and his 5 race wins too has been kind of a microcosm of his season so far as well, Josh. I mean, he's had to battle through adversity. It's not like, you know, he's made it look easy all this season, but it hasn't always been easy. There's been situations where, you know, he hasn't finished a race. He's been caught up in early incidents, been caught up in things that weren't his fault. Some of these tracks don't really, you know, play to his strengths, and we've seen that when other drivers are able to swoop in and you know, get themselves a win. So he does have 5 wins on the season, and right now is leading this race with 97, going to be 96 laps to go. And I will say the big thing about the 2 trucks so far this year, Josh, and I think we're going to continue to see it tonight and even into the playoff run, is Peacock here trying to work his way around Huck Wigington for 8th spot, but Wigington absolutely having none of it. Is that the 2 camp just finds a way to win, Josh, and I think that's what you got to do coming down the stretch, definitely coming to the playoffs. Finds himself in a really good spot here with 95 laps to go and looking to build on him when we go to Vegas next week. I'm sorry, in 2 weeks, actually.
Yeah, it will be 2 weeks before we work our way to virtual Sin City, the virtual version of Evan Basoko's home racetrack, by the way, out there in Las Vegas for the championship finale. Reminds me of, very personally, the Monster Jam days of having the Monster Jam World Finals and crowning champions every year in Las Vegas. I'm very used to crowning some champions in Sin City, so glad to see that NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series will be following in those footsteps and crowning a champion on December the 16th from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. But for right now, we are in the woods of Tennessee at the Bristol Motor Speedway, a very, very short track compared to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. With 92 laps to go, it's Ted Wade that leads the way, and 6/10 up from the battle for second between Adam Newbert and Raul Meza as those two continue to fight. And how about Raul Meza? Got gifted kind of a great top 5 spot off the stage number 2 break in the pit lane when a lot of drivers tried to get some damage repaired, and he's used it really well. Still sitting in third as we look back to the battle for 7th between Peacock Lothian and Stephen Thomas knocking on the door.
Yeah, and these guys were battling for the lead earlier in this race, and you mentioned it, Rivera, kind of a fortunate recipient of these guys pitting, but at the same time, Josh, part of the race is, not taking damage where you don't have to take that damage repair time on pit road. Rivera in the 20s done that, finds himself now up in 4th position, and you continue to see how important these positions are to Taylor Peacock, really not trying to let anybody here now get to the inside of him. And man, that was a huge run for the 23 of Thomas, but you see how it hurt him there on corner exit. Josh really drove that hard into 3 and 4.
They fight their way back to the back straightaway as Ted Wade will put another lap behind us. Taylor Peacock out in the front of this group. Chris Cinnamon up to the front of this group as well by a good margin. A couple of lap stragglers behind it. Well, actually, one of them, and actually make that 2 as Huck Wigington is also back there. But Cody Knott, one of the lead lap drivers now. Haven't seen much of the 26 yet tonight. He's been kind of around the top 10. Hasn't really showed himself much up at the front. But how about that 26 at the edge of the top 10 now with 87 laps to go, and trying to keep up with the playoff drivers that are in front of him. But I think right now, Ian, all Stephen Thomas is really thinking is he's being held up by that 43 of Blake Lothian. Not a ton of places to go.
No, not a ton of places to go, and Lothian's been a strong truck all night long, so it's not going to be easy to make that pass there on the 43. I mean, you saw Lothian at some points in this race was challenging for the race lead when Peacock was up there as well, and I mean, if you're Peacock, you love having that kind of grocery divider, if you will, of Lothian there, the non-playoff driver between you and Thomas, as he continues to try to make his way here on Chris Cinnamon now in the 3 truck. And I mean, I handed the Peacock, he's making his way back up to the field. I still don't think it was the right call to hang on and get those damage repairs, Josh, but if he can get all the way back up there to Ted Wade, I'll eat my words.
Would you eat him with a fox? Would you eat him on a box?
I didn't expect you to go there with it, honestly. I figured there was going to be some kind of joke.
You wouldn't go that far?
Yeah, I mean, might as well. In for a penny, in for a pound. We got 82 laps to fill time. I mean, okay, I'm kidding.
Now that you said that, we're going to end up getting 15 cautions.
Right, exactly.
That's about how that goes. But I mean, really at this point, with the field spreading out how it is, of course, we still have some battles. Chris Cinnamon now to the inside of Jose Luis Rivera. This is for P5, and some crucial points for Chris Cinnamon as he tries to protect himself. 6 points above the cut line at the end of the last stage. But as he works his way by now to P5, a lot of the field has spread their way out. We have a lot of our playoff drivers kind of spread every which way. 3 of them either off the lead lap or in the pit lane, and Ted Wade doing Ted Wade things and pulling away at the front. I mean, with 79 laps to go, really the main story now is, when's everybody going to come down for their final pit stop? And in that same vein, how are these battles going to develop? How are these storylines of the playoffs going to develop? Because right now, for Tyler Dittmer, Justin Lumpkin, and Keith Bradley, their positions are, unless we get more wrecks and then Lumpkin and Dittmer end up gaining a couple of spots with drivers going back to the pit lane and then losing a bunch of laps, those positions are pretty much locked down. It's just how many points are Cinnamon, Peacock, and Thomas going to gain if they're not going to be in the race lead? Because right now, out of those drivers, out of the top 4 playoff drivers right now, all of them are in the top 10. The only driver below the cut line is Ted Wade. If Ted Wade wins, then that'll push Peacock below the cut line, and he would have to rely on points above Tyler Dittmer, which as of right now, he has. So it seems like the saving grace, Ian, for Tyler Dittmer is going to be if Ted Wade does not win. But if Ted Wade wins, the 34 of Tyler Dittmer can kiss those championship hopes goodbye, because then at that point, with no added bonus points, he is not going to have enough.
But I mean, all you can really do at this point is just try to stay in the race and do all you can and just hope that a driver like Newbert right now, who has been gaining a little bit of ground here on Ted Wade, is now Chris Simmons will make a move to the inside here and take the position away from, I believe that's a lap track there with a 43. But at this point, you kind of mentioned it. I mean, all you can hope for is that Wade gets passed by Newbert, maybe even somebody else here towards the end of this race. But something that'll be really interesting, Josh, is that green flag pit stops don't happen very often at Bristol. I mean, there's usually a caution that'll come out and allow a pit stop to happen. I wouldn't mind seeing a green flag pit stop at Bristol, and that's definitely going to shake things up a little. But drivers don't really, practice pit road entry and exit, especially here at a short track. Probably going to play dividends if you have practice just a little bit.
And Jose Luis Rivera with problems. He goes to the bottom of the racetrack. Did he hit the wall? I'm not sure, but something happened to the 20. He goes all the way to the apron of the racetrack. Could it have been an engine expiring? He didn't hit the wall, but he just out of nowhere slows and into the pit lane for last week's winner from Talladega.
Pit stops? Possibly?
It looks like he came down at a very weird point and at a very abruptly.
Yeah, I will give you that.
Stops. We'll see if the jacks go up. Jacks are going up. If he stays in the pit lane, I guess we'll find out. So we'll put him multiple laps down. That's the big thing about pitting here at Bristol, Ian, that we haven't talked about yet. Pitting under green is going to lose you a ton of laps. No, Jose Luis Rivera, 14.5 in the box, and he's off and away.
Yeah, but taking tires, I'm interested to see how that is going to shake out, Josh. I think if this does stay green and we make our green flag pit stops, I think Rivera is banking on possibly one more caution coming out here before the end of the evening. And now that we say it,
there it is.
There it is.
Oh, and Jose Luis Rivera is going to get caught up in that one, trying to avoid it. That was James Morris in the 47 trying to go down to the inside, and unfortunately is going to collect the 20 of Jose Luis Rivera in the crossfire. And that'll be Morris done, and possibly more damage for the 20 and Jose Luis Rivera as well. But with 65 to go, a lot of drivers, 4 of them being playoff drivers, might have just gotten gifted a free pit stop as we look at the replay.
Yeah, and I was going to say your strategy for trying to short pit the rest of the field as Peacock there just gets into him, and trying to save it there was Morris. And then let's see here. Oh, yeah, just kind of goes to the left. And I don't think that Rivera was expecting him to make that move there at the end.
Just losing a bit of that control, which we've seen a lot tonight. And unfortunately, it bites the 47 of James Morris there off of turn number 4. But Ted Wade leads the field into the pit lane. This could be money stop for a lot of these drivers. After this pit stop, we're not expecting anybody else to touch the pit lane tonight. So let's see what is going to happen. Ian, do you think we'll see any 2-tire strategies? I mean, I know the tires aren't wearing too much. Can anybody maybe attempt to go with just 2 rights, 2 lefts to try and gain a little bit of spots on the track?
I would go fuel only, Josh, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just going fuel only and get back out of the racetrack. Especially if I'm towards the back and I can gain a whole bunch of spots that way. I mean, why not? I really don't think tire wear is going to be that big of a deal here. I would say I was watching even later in runs. Fast lap times have been 14, 15 seconds. Even late in runs, there's not that much fall off in lap time. I mean, we're talking about maybe 0.2 of a second. And if you can get yourself on a big enough gap here, especially on the restart, might as well roll the dice a little bit.
Off and away for Ted Wade, 14.2 in the box, 14.5 for Adam Newbert. Everybody at least through to the top 7, taking 4 tires, and looks like Cody Knott, Huck Wigington having a little bit of extra time in the pit lane for damage repair. Dana Shepard work his way in. Same thing with James Morris grabbing damage repair. Jose Luis Rivera is already off and away and back onto the racetrack. So with this caution, keeps Ted Wade in the front, puts Chris Cinnamon, playoff driver, in the 3, a little bit closer. Taylor Peacock also a little bit closer. He's back in the top 5. And then Stephen Thomas in P7 on the track. So some good points still being earned by all those drivers, but it's not doing any favors for Tyler Dittmer, not doing any favors for Justin Lumpkin, and not doing any favors for Keith Bradley, who is still with 55 minutes, 56 minutes now, still in the pit lane. Doesn't look like he'll be making it out on the track at all.
No, I don't think so at all. And the only thing that really does is just kind of help out Ted Wade a little bit more with his playoff hunt here. And I mean, he's done everything right up to this point. I think part of that you saw earlier was him hanging back maybe a little bit in the field, Josh, trying to avoid that early contact he saw with the battles for the lead. He was patient, bided his time, now finds himself leading this race with 60 laps to go, I believe, when they go back to green flag racing.
So as they go 2x2 again, to play a hypothetical, if they were to end the race right now, they finish exactly how they're running. Your playoff 4 will be Ted Wade, Stephen Thomas, Chris Cinnamon, and Taylor Peacock, who are currently the 4 playoff drivers still left on the track. As we go back green, side by side between Meza and Newbert for 2nd, Peacock and Cinnamon, 2 playoff drivers going side by side for 4th. But right now, if they were to finish pretty much exactly how they are, no more issues for any of those top 4 in the playoffs right now, Wade, Cinnamon, Peacock, and Thomas, they would be your 4 racing for a championship in Las Vegas.
Oh, and what happened here, Josh? Another yellow flag coming out, I believe. No, we stay green right now.
Is that not Justin Lumpkin involved there?
Yeah, I think maybe a spin there at the back of the pack is what brought that out. Both of the drivers down on the apron for just a second. Yeah, go back to the front of the pack here with Cinnamon battling for around 3rd position. Meza and Lothian in there battling for 4th and 5th. We're still trying to chase down Cinnamon here as we go.
Side by side, back through the last couple of corners here to the front straightaway. Meza on the outside. Inside goes to, well, did go to Blake Lothian. Meza will keep that spot as we now look off the top of the number 81. This is Taylor Peacock, stage number 1 winner tonight. Where he currently sits, he's inside of the top 4 in the playoffs to race for a championship. Still no wins on the season for him. However, he's looking for number 1 tonight. We know he had a fast truck in stage 1. Can that speed come out in stage 2? As side by side for the race lead, Newbert in the VFW Ford F-150 number 4 goes to the inside on Ted Wade.
Oh man, and this is a battle for Ted Wade's season right here, Josh. So he's not going to give a single inch to Newbert, but Newbert, one of these drivers who are trying to play spoiler here, is a non-playoff driver. I don't think Newbert has a win so far on the season as well, but looking to get one right here towards the end of the season. I mean, this has been his closest chance that he can at at Bristol. Slides up behind Ted Wade again. I don't think he had quite enough for the 2 that time. And really, I think that's smart. Just kind of sit here, bide your time, maybe look for a tire wear advantage that come into play here. As he drives to the bottom again on Ted Wade, though, I don't think he's quite done with him yet, Josh.
Now, another hypothetical is if Ted Wade did not win this race. And the only answer I can give on a possible hypothetical right now would be if he were to finish in 2nd place. If he were to finish in 2nd place, he would still be above the cut line, but it would be very, very close. It would be about 8 points that he is good to Tyler Dittmer, and Tyler Dittmer would be scored outside the cut line in P5. As of right now, that is as low as Tyler Dittmer is going to finish. He's either going to finish P5 or he is going to be inside the top 4 and fight for a championship. What it looks like is if Ted Wade were to drop down to P11, that is what would finally push Tyler Dittmer back into the championship 4. Right now, it really all sits on Ted Wade. I don't believe if Wade were to finish in 2nd, which of course if he wins, he's already locked in. So it doesn't really matter there. If he just needs to get 2nd or worse for Tyler Dittmer. If he were to, Taylor Peacock would need to finish, yeah, he wouldn't be able to finish that low. He would need to finish lower than where Tyler Dittmer currently is, which unless he pulls off the racetrack right now, is not possible. James Morris might be able to give one more point to Lumpkin and Tyler Dittmer as he is currently in the pit lane, but if he comes back out on the racetrack, that also is not going to happen.
It's really tight if you're Dittmer, and yeah, you kind of mentioned it, Josh. Maybe if anything happens to the 87 right now, he's 21 laps down, but if he were to retire this race right now, that would give one more spot to Dittmer here at least. So a potential of Dittmer to at least get 2 spots, but I think that's all he could do at this point, is just a maximum of 2 more spots that he can get while he's trying to chase down Ted Wade.
The issue for Justin Lumpkin a little bit earlier on in this run, we saw it pretty much right after the restart in stage number 3. He is side by side with the 34 Dittmer. Oh my, that was a spinning Cody Knott that was in front of him in turn 2. And he ends up barely avoiding the incident. Let's see what happened to the 26 of Cody Knott here. Oh, a slow truck in front of him. He has to back it down. It's the 00 of Huck Wigington in front. He has to back it down, and Lumpkin slams on the brakes to avoid hitting those yellow barrels on the inside, and luckily does avoid hitting them and is able to keep on rolling in that number 87.
Yeah, that would probably been race over for Justin Lumpkin too if he hit that tire or those trash can barriers. I don't really know the right word for him, Josh, but yeah, that would have definitely been race over for him and probably just given another spot to Dittmer. And you see it now, Morris will fall to the 13th position, so in a few more laps Dittmer will take that spot as well. So he is going to get at least that 1 spot, Josh, but definitely would love that second one here in his place championship hunt.
Now inside of 40 laps to go, Wade still leads. Adam Newbert now is on his back bumper. Lumpkin's able to gain 1 more spot up to P12. That really is not going to help him too much. It will help a little bit, not going to help a ton. Dittmer will gain back into P13 as James Morris is out of this race. He just needs to complete 3 more laps. And then Dittmer is able to gain 1 more spot. Keith Bradley will not be able to gain any more spots unless he comes back onto the racetrack and puts Robbie Richards 3 more laps down. So, with those hypotheticals out of the way, we can try and gain a little bit clearer of a picture of where we're going to be at the end of this race in terms of points. Now remember, where we currently stand, once we cross about 31 laps to go, Tyler Dittmer's position is pretty much locked in, because there will be nobody that can then wreck out and gain more laps down than Dittmer already has. So that'd be basically P14, a complete lock in about 3 laps. So it really is going to be, where is Wade going to finish? Where is Cinnamon, Peacock, and Thomas going to finish? I can say, with that extra point from Lumpkin, only going to put a bandage on a gunshot wound pretty much, because it is 11 points still down from the cut line for Justin Lumpkin, even with that extra spot that he just gained.
Yeah, and Lumpkin looked so strong to start this race too. Made a really aggressive move to get himself up into the 3rd position. I genuinely thought he was going to be one of the trucks that were going to be battling for the win at the end of this race, but we kind of saw it, Josh. That stage 1 was the stage of ruining drivers' championship hopes, and then stage 2 and 3 have kind of settled down now as we have more trucks on pit road and more trucks behind the wall. But you know, Ted Wade, no problem once he got to the front of this pack. Newbert is still giving him a little bit of a challenge here, but even he looked farther back from that. The 37 of Mesa is the only driver that is really within his shouting distance, and he's under challenge from the 3 of Cinnamon right now, so it's going to be even harder for Mesa to hang on to that position.
$30 laps remaining here for the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Will we get any more yellow flags? Will they finish how they are right now? Pit stops are all done. Not expecting anybody else into the pit lane unless, of course, we get that aforementioned yellow flag. But Ted Wade out in front has Adam Newbert knocking on his door. That 4 of Newbert, remember, this season hasn't been the best one for that 4 of Adam Newbert. He is looking for the possibility of a race win, and what would be race win number 1 on the season for Adam Newbert, and what I believe would be Adam Newbert's first race win in NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series history as well. So it would be a huge one for the 4 machine. if he is able to get that race win, he's 3/10 back from Ted Wade now. As we take a look at the Hornets' nest, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th involved in this one. Peacock looking for more points as he dives to the inside of Meza. Lothian trying to get in it as well, as Peacock will pick up the spot. What can Stephen Thomas do, looking for more points on the board as well?
Yeah, but really this has just been a kind of back and forth seesaw battle between Lothian and Peacock there, and this is just going to give the spot back to Peacock that he already had, and then Thomas is going to file in behind Lothian. Really not much has changed in the net, Josh, but just kind of a little bit of back and forth shuffling between all three of these drivers.
Now, take all of the points math with a grain of salt. There are still some bonus points that will not be factored in until after the NASRA race officials have had a moment to take a look at the points and upload them. But those are only 1 point bonus points for leading 1 or more laps, pole position, which would go to Ted Wade, and that would be in favor for the number 2 machine. Actually, it would be in favor of the 34 of Tyler Dittmer, excuse me. He had that pole, so he'd gain that bonus point. We'll add that in, but then it'd be led the most laps, led 1 or more laps, or finishing a race with 0 incidents. I think it's safe to say not a ton of drivers in this field, maybe not even any drivers in this field right now, have 0 incidents. So it would be pretty much nobody getting that bonus point. Leading 1 or more laps, we can try and gain as much as we can off of that, but as of right now, it's just gonna be a guessing game. But unless anything's within 1 point, we're not going to gain much information from that either, as almost making contact with everybody off of turn 4 with 20 to go. It's still the Hornets' nest for 3rd.
Still a Hornets' nest for 3rd, and really none of these drivers giving these positions up. Cinnamon knows how important each and every one of these spots are going to be, Josh, and he's going to continue to try to claw back here on Newbert, but really Newbert and Wade now in a class of their own. Newbert was having a little bit of a challenge here for Ted Wade at the lead, but now that's fallen back to about a second of a gap here, Josh.
Now inside of 20 to go. Jose Luis Rivera will get out of the way of these battling leaders. Cinnamon pulling away in the front with the number 3. Peacock and Thomas battling for some for some race points now. Where they stand, however, it is going to be just adding a little bit more fuel to the fire. There'll just be 1 more point for Taylor Peacock. He does not need that point as of right now. Same thing with Stephen Thomas. Point is not needed. It will be a nice to have for both of these drivers, as of course Taylor Peacock has led a lap. He gets a bonus point as well. And as they work their way through turns 1 and 2, almost making contact again as they race back down the back straightaway.
We do have to be careful here, Josh, as we get into the final 15 laps of this race. You don't want to throw it all away after a really strong run to get you all the way up to this point. Peacock has fought his way back up to the 5th position now. I don't think it's going to be quite enough for him in his current configuration right now, but look at this. Thomas now trying to move to the inside here in the 23. He's going to take that spot away from Peacock now for 5th position. That's definitely not going to help Peacock's chances at all, Josh.
Even with all of those bonus points that we just mentioned, if they were to go 1 bonus point here, 1 bonus point there, would not matter a whole lot. Tyler Dittmer will gain that 1 point from the pole position. And with that being factored in, if Ted Wade were to win this race, it'll be 6 points to the good for Taylor Peacock in 4th. If Wade were to not win this race, gets passed by Newbert, it'll still be 6 points to the good for Ted Wade. Tyler Dittmer in the 34 came in looking like a really, really great chance at him walking away with a spot in the championship 4. But as of right now, it is looking like it might have gone by the wayside. As of right now, if Taylor Peacock were to finish in P12, that would be spot given to Tyler Dittmer in the top 4. As of right now, that's not possible with the amount of laps down that 12th place driver Justin Lumpkin is. So Dittmer would have to rely on a late race incident for Ted Wade or something to happen. We've seen crazier things happen before. Will anything crazy happen in 9 laps to go for the last Great Coliseum?
Yeah, so really, if you're Peacock, you just got to look at finishing this race, and you've made it into the championship four. And it's kind of ironic, Josh, that we've seen all of these drivers not necessarily been the fastest driver. It's just been the driver that stayed out of trouble so far this evening. Those are your four drivers that are now looking at possibly the final four spots here in our championship four battle, barring really any unforeseen circumstances. And as we get closer to the end of this race, even if one of those four at the front of the pack were to wreck out at this point, with how many laps down Lumpkin and Dittmer are, it just becomes that much harder for them to gain any spots.
With 6 laps to go, if Taylor Peacock does make it into the championship four at the end of this one, just call him Matt Crafton. No wins and makes it through the playoffs, makes it into the championship four, and we'll have a shot at the championship in Las Vegas. 5 to go now from virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. It wasn't looking like Ted Wade might have had the speed in the middle of the race, but a resurgence from the up front Motorsports number 2, and he is looking to walk away with this win. It's been quite a season for Ted Wade, and he came in last driver in the Elite 8 in 8th. And an issue for Tyler Dittmer pushes him onto the apron. He'll limp it around into the pit lane this time by. But what looked like might have gone sour for Ted Wade. 2 great stage finishes and a win to boot. He's looking like he's going to storm his way into the championship four.
Oh, yeah, and we kind of mentioned that all these race wins have just been a kind of a microcosm of Ted Wade's season so far, and this continues to be just another one of those ways where he found a way to win. He found a way to get himself into the championship four, and I definitely think in 2 weeks, based on what we've seen so far this season, Josh, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be the truck to watch.
White flag, 1 final lap to go from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. Your final 3 playoff drivers will finish 4, 5, and 6, but Ted Wade locks himself into the championship finale in Vegas with a win in Bristol, and joining him to fight for a championship is Stephen Thomas, Chris Cinnamon, and Taylor Peacock.
Yeah, give a call to Blake Lothian as well, too, finishing in 3rd position. Not one of these drivers that are battling for playoff positions. A part-time driver as well, comes home in 3rd position. But congratulations to all these drivers that will make it through to battle for our championship here in 2 weeks in Vegas, Josh.
Ted Wade will try and solidify an amazing season. This is win number 6 for the over-the-top designs, number 2 Chevy Silverado. He'll look to do another intermediate track masterclass in Vegas and walk away a NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series champion. He burns it down on the front stretch concrete here at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. And he walks away with the race win of the Pultz Poppers 275 to get himself into the championship four. It was Adam Newbert that walked away 2nd. Blake Lothian walks away 3rd. We'll hopefully talk with all 3 of your podium finishers here in just a moment in the post-race show. But Chris Cinnamon, Stephen Thomas, and Taylor Peacock round out the top 6. Those 3 are joining Ted Wade as your championship four. Raul Meza, Huck Wigington, Cody Knott, and Dana Shepard round out the top 10. And only 7 drivers finish on the lead lap. And some issues for Jose Luis Rivera. Last week's winner ends up P11. Justin Lumpkin ends up 12th after all of his issues. Tyler Dittmer, what came in as looking like a favorite to get into the championship four, he ends up below the cut line, 6 points below. James Morris, Robbie Richards rounding out the top 15. Keith Bradley and Christopher Blanchard rounding out the drivers that took the green flag tonight, all over 200 laps down. Finishing off the Elite 8 round of the playoffs, and unfortunately we're going to cut Brady LaBeouf, Keith Bradley, Justin Lumpkin, and Tyler Dittmer from the championship four, but Taylor Peacock, Chris Cinnamon, Stephen Thomas, and Ted Wade will go battling for a championship. And we'll start the post-race show. We'll go from 3rd, 2nd, then to 1st, and we'll begin by talking to our 3rd place finisher of Blake Lothian. And Blake, part-time schedule for you, but another solid top 5 finish, and I believe this will be top 5 finish number 4 or 5 for you on the season. So great run for you tonight. How was it from down the track?
It was a really fun race. I mean, really racy the entire time. I mean, from the drop the green flag, it was extremely racy. A lot of fun race, really fun race to run. But I didn't expect the amount of aggression with this many cars in the race. I mean, with all that was at stake, I didn't expect it to be this exciting this early.
I should also mention 4th top 5, 6th top 10. I don't want to miss any of your stats there because it has been a really, really good season for you, even though with the part-time schedule, still beating a lot of those playoff drivers out there on the track. I mean, what was the key for you to getting through tonight? Of course, you're not in the playoffs. You didn't want to hinder any of those 8 drivers trying to battle it for the championship 4, but you also wanted to walk away with a checkered flag at the end of the day.
No, 100%. I mean, that's one of the difficulties with running part-time. I mean, if I was running full-time, I think I would run a lot more aggressive. But with me only being part-time and the reputation I've already gained in the series, I didn't need to hurt it anymore by taking too aggressive of a move. So I think in the second stage, I was just running behind for a little bit. I didn't want to risk sending it too deep and end up taking out a Taylor, I believe it was. So, I mean, for me, it was just mostly just trying to run patient and be smart with the tire saving at the end.
Moving forward, will you join us in Las Vegas in 2 weeks' time? Can we expect another good intermediate run for you in the 43?
Fingers crossed. I mean, I really want to. I mean, I've ran a lot of C-Fixed races there this or whatever it was in the schedule. The track honestly races a lot like a super speedway, so not sure what we're expecting there, but it could be a really, really entertaining race.
Great run for you tonight, Blake. Congratulations on your top 3. Anybody else you want to shout out, give a hi to?
Gotta say a big thank you to Jeffrey Sickles for giving me the opportunity, as always, Millie's Restaurant and Catering, then all the real-life sponsors, and we're looking for sponsors for the 2023 Craftsman Truck Series season. So if anyone is interested, please message me.
And congratulations again on your podium finish. That's Blake Lothian in the number 43. He walks away with a 3rd place spot tonight, and walking away with 2nd place. Another great finish for Adam Newbert. Ian, you're standing by with the driver of the 4.
Well, Josh mentioned there, Adam, a 2nd place finish for you, really mixing it up there with the leaders. And at times it looked like you had something for Ted Wade. We asked the same thing to Blake Lothian. I'm going to ask you as well. I mean, what's your mentality mixing it up there with drivers that are battling for those championship 4 spots, knowing you have a truck to win the race?
Thinking of my teammate Justin Lumpkin, man, trying to get around Ted and steal the win and make sure I gave my teammate Justin Lumpkin the best chance to make it into the Final 4, but, wasn't able to get it done there at the end.
And you mentioned it coming up just short in 2nd place there. I mean, what do you need there in the last 20, 25 laps there to able to run Ted Wade down?
Honestly, I got to talk to Ted because, the way he was able to just pull away from me right there. I was right there. We were right there nose to tail racing. I dove underneath of him a couple times, trying to see if I can make the bottom work to get around him, get a run off the corner. But I don't know how he pulled away from me like he did. And I just stayed right there with him. Like he just was able to save his tire so much better than I was. It just blew me away how much he just was able to pull on me there.
Well, you'll get 1 week off, and then you'll be able to give it one more shot here when we go to Vegas for a championship race. What are you looking forward to at Vegas, and just what are your thoughts on the season in general?
I want to have a good, ending to the season. The season has been absolute crap for me. We went in, we had a really great season last season. Was 3rd in the regular season points last season. Then we went to last season's playoffs, and it's been downhill, just bad luck, the crashes, the wrecks ever since then. It just seems like we cannot stay ahead of it all. And hopefully just have a good end of the season and look forward to next season and get back on the right track and get back to running up front like we're used to. And, everything like that.
Maybe a tough run in the season, but a good run for you tonight, at least for 2nd place. The floor is yours, though, Adam. Anybody you want to thank here before we let you go?
Yeah, first thing I want to do is thank my team owner, Jeff Sickles at Sick With It Motorsports. He does a lot for us and my teammates. I got to thank my teammates, Justin Lumpkin and Blake Lothian. I'm really kind of sad that Justin, had some bad luck today, and he was fighting to get in the Final 4, and he wasn't able to. He's probably not going to be able to make it in, but other than that, I'd like to thank our sponsors at Sick With It Motorsports. My personal sponsor, VFW Post-Tacoma. Thanks for coming on this season. It hadn't been the best of season for them, but hopefully they're, watching up there at the post. And, we have one more race to do with them. And then our other sponsors on the team, Hayes Lawn and Landscaping, Millie's Landing, Darren's Nail Gun Repair, 213 Simware, for the league, NASRA, Butt Kicker, Triple M, you guys up in the broadcast booth, my girlfriend, everybody watching. that's supporting me. I'd like to thank all of them.
Well, one more week here for Adam Newbert in the Four Machine. Adam, really appreciate you coming up here and taking some time to talk to us in the Racecraft TV booth.
Thank y'all. I've been missing talking to y'all, man. I think this is the first time I've talked to y'all all season. I've been missing y'all.
Well, hopefully we'll get one more before the end of the year, but that was your second place finisher, Adam Newbert, and he was just able to, he was trying to chase him down, Josh, but not able to chase down our winner, and you're standing by with him now in victory lane.
For the 6th time this season, the 2 of Ted Wade is victorious, and this time it's on the high-banked concrete of Bristol. Ted, and this one locks you into the championship 4. How sweet is this one?
Oh man, this one was awesome. I needed it so badly after I goofed up Talladega last week or 2 weeks ago, and had to come in here with a mindset I just needed to win.
Those stage points really helped you out, and was that kind of the beginning of got a feeling out the truck? Because you saw good speed, second place for you in qualifying, but then as you worked your way through the opening stages, kind of saw you drop back closer to the edge of the top 5. What kind of changed there in stage 3?
Yeah, I think it was there at the end of the first stage. I just burnt my stuff up, so I knew I was pushing way too hard. We got into the second stage, and I just tried to lay back, and I was actually really surprised I started catching those guys. My teammate, though, Keith Bradley, there after he got taken out in the first stage, he gave me a little tip when running the bottom, and I'd try about 20, 30 laps in. I'd drop to the bottom, and he just had this line figured out, man. And once I hit it and found it, that's all I needed.
Unofficially, you'll be taking on Stephen Thomas, Chris Cinnamon, and Taylor Peacock for the championship. Where's your confidence level at going into Las Vegas? We know you're good at the intermediates. Can you be good for one final time and walk away a champion?
I'm going to give it a hell of a shot. I know that. Everybody's just been so good this year. Everyone's pretty consistent, so it's going to be a tough one.
Who you want to give a shout out? Who you want to say hi to before we let you go here tonight?
Yeah, man, I just want to give a shout out to everybody over at Over the Top Designs, John Hedrick, my teammates, Keith Bradley, Chris Cinnamon. Like I said, without Keith tonight, I don't think I would have got that one finished off on the podium. And big shout out to Dan's Top Notch Heating and Cooling and Bruzy Racewear. You guys here at Racecraft, everybody over at NASRA, Triple M, Pultz Poppers. Thank everybody for this season.
And congratulations once again on your 6th race win of the season. That's Ted Wade in yet another masterclass from him. And again, unofficially, we are still waiting on a good bit of bonus points to be added in as well, if any of those are going to change anything. But with 6 points good to the cut line, unofficially, we can say Taylor Peacock, 10 points good to the cut line, Chris Cinnamon, 23 points good to the cut line, Stephen Thomas, and with a win, it will be Ted Wade locked in to the championship 4. But unofficially right now, with Taylor Peacock, Chris Cinnamon, Stephen Thomas, and Ted Wade, those 4 battling for a championship in Las Vegas, it is going to be tough. I mean, we know Ted Wade is going to have the speed, but Stephen Thomas is always there when he needs to be. Same thing with Chris Cinnamon. He knows how to get it done. And Taylor Peacock, still winless on the season, can spoil the party for everybody else as we go racing at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway in 2 weeks' time. It'll be December the 16th for the championship finale. But Ian, this is going to be exciting. What a place to do it, and what 4 drivers we have competing.
Well, I think Blake Lothian in his interview brought up a really interesting point, Josh, is that, yes, it is an intermediate 1.5-mile track, but in these trucks, it does race a lot like a super speedway. There's not going to be a lot of off-throttle time. And we mentioned how dominant Ted Wade has been on 1.5-mile tracks. I think this throws a little bit of a curveball in there because of just the way that Las Vegas will race. So they will have 1 week off to think about it. In 2 weeks' time, December 16th, you see it 9 p.m. Eastern here on Racecraft TV. They'll do battle, Josh, and really, my money's still on Ted Wade, but I think any of those 4 drivers has a real shot to come away with this championship.
It's going to be an exciting one, and we hope that you'll join us here on Racecraft TV on December the 16th from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway as we go racing for one final time in Season 5 of the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. But that will do it for our coverage here tonight, and want to thank Brayden LaBeouf and everybody else at the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. For Zach Johnson producing tonight alongside myself in the booth, Ian Fisher, my name is Joshua Lee. We thank you so much for tuning in from the virtual Last Crate Coliseum. Congratulations to Ted Wade on locking himself into the championship 4. Unofficially, Steven Thomas, Chris Cinnamon, and Taylor Peacock will join him in the championship fight from Las Vegas. Who will be your Season 5 NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series champion? Tune in next week to find out.